Hello, my darling sweet friends. And welcome to the very first module, first video in the Braveheart Open Mind Coach Academy. I am so freaking delighted that we are spending our time here together, that you are choosing to spend your time here watching this video, perhaps changing your career or changing your life, because that is so exciting to me. We are going to learn today the very first step, the very first foundation for being an excellent coach for other human beings, to help them grow in their own personal development, in their own self-love, whatever avenue you desire to help people in with your coaching. As always, we are approaching these concepts from the inside out. So first, I will be teaching you how to apply every single technique inside the Coach Academy to yourself first, which is wildly exciting because it absolutely eliminates imposter syndrome. Because when I first was in the coaching world, it was really easy to be like, I can facilitate these amazing transformations for other people, but I can't do it for myself. What's wrong with me? And the truth is, there's nothing wrong with you. Most coaching programs just don't teach how to apply these concepts to yourself. And so that is why we are working from the inside out, so that you can apply all of the concepts to your own darn beautiful self first. Because to be honest, you are your own best client. You spend the most freaking time with your own darn beautiful self. And so when you can use these tools and techniques that are so powerful and so juicy and so exciting with yourself first, you automatically have that delicious confidence, and you already have that delightful and delicious foundation for being who you are, while you're on your journey for helping people be more of who they are, which is so exciting. For our first module, our topic of conversation is sourcing sacred self-safety. And I love this so much. Sourcing your own sense of self-safety is the beginning of everything in a personal development journey. And here's why. Sourcing sacred safety is one of the most important things that you can do for all inner work, because you can only grow as fast as the slowest part of you feels safe to grow. I'll say that again. You can only grow as fast as the slowest part of you feels safe to grow. And what's really cute about that is that it's a quote from one of my favorite songs called Gentle with Myself by Karen Drucker. Such a good song. So good. Makes you feel all sorts of kind and loving and gentle with yourself. And Karen, the person who wrote the song, or at least performed the song, is totally right when it comes to this idea of sourcing sacred self-safety for yourself. However safe your inner child or inner turmoil or inner pain feels, that is the quickest that you are allowed to grow in your own personal development or in your self-love journey or wherever you are coming to this. When you don't feel safe with yourself, you are always tempted to slam on the brakes. You never feel good outside of your comfort zone. You always meet friction between you and other parts of you who don't feel safe and happy. So we can have all of these big, juicy, wild, dreamy dreams and not feel safe enough to go after them. Think about how many things that you've thought of in your life along the lines of, wouldn't it be nice if I could XYZ, jump out of an airplane perhaps, right? Wouldn't it be nice if I could be as adventurous as this person that I know, right? We all have these thoughts, and also we can only be as adventurous as our own sense of internal safety. We can only grow and push ourselves out of our comfort zone at the rate at which the slowest, most wounded, perhaps, part of us feels safe enough to leave that comfort zone. So it is here where we start our journey in this Coach Academy so that we can build this beautiful structural foundation for growth. Because the safer and safer you feel with your own darn beautiful self, the safer and quicker and safer it feels to make power move after power move after power move to achieve your dreams. Which, if you're here, it perhaps might be starting a coaching business or working for someone else's coaching business, right? Being able to help people. You can only build your dream as quickly as it feels safe enough to do so. Otherwise, you will constantly get in your own way. It will create so much friction that it might take you a decade to start a business, where if you had felt safer with yourself and your decisions and your ambitions, it could maybe only take you a year or two to build, right? You can only move as fast as the slowest part of you feels safe. And that is where we start this delicious conversation about sourcing sacred self-safety. And I'm wildly excited. So, as we expand this topic, I'm going to ask you a question here. When I ask you, how much do you trust yourself to always be nice and kind and loving to yourself? How do you feel when I ask that question? Or how do you react in your body when I ask that question of how much do you trust yourself to always be nice, kind, or loving to yourself? Take a moment to check in, and I'll give you a moment. Grab a drink of water. How does that question make you feel? For me personally, as little as 5 years ago, that question would have made me feel incredibly uncomfortable, like really squicky and like guilty and bad. I would have felt really bad about that question as little as 5 years ago because I was not very kind to myself. I did not know how to get out of those thought spirals of, you're a bad, terrible cow person, no one will ever love you type type thought spirals. I didn't know how to get out of them. But when we know better, we do better. And that's what we're here to learn, right? If you got that icky, squicky feeling or some sort of small or large level of guilt when I ask that question, it's because there are parts of you who do not feel safe, who do not trust in your own ability to be nice to yourself, in your own capacity to hold them gently and compassionately. And that can be a big problem, like we said when we were talking about why this is such an important question, because it holds you back. And beyond it just holding you back from your dreams, which I say just holding you back from your dreams, but here is the worst part. What it does is it disconnects you from your sense of self. It disconnects you from you. The meaner you are to yourself consciously, the more you push away all of those parts of you that might be coming from your sweet inner child, coming from those parts of you that were hurt in your very early years of development between the ages of 0 and 7. Because between the ages of 0 and 7 is when our unconscious mind develops most of its judgments about our place in the world and how we see ourselves. And if your inner 7-year-old is deeply wounded by something and has created some sort of backwards coping mechanism to try and keep you safe somehow, to try and keep you from experiencing that same hurt that she felt when she was 7, and you're meeting that with animosity of like, oh my God, my brain sucks. I'm at war with my own brain. When you are meeting that with animosity, well, of course your 7-year-old self isn't going to feel loved and welcomed and safe, right? Of course. And so let's backtrack just a smidgen bit to talk about the difference real quick between your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. Your unconscious mind is actually the part that runs about 95% of your brain, right? And your body and your functions. It's the part of you that keeps your blood pumping, right? Your heart beating, your blood pumping through your veins without you having to consciously think, my heart needs to beat, my heart needs to beat, my heart needs to beat, right? It's also what keeps your lungs breathing without you thinking consistently, my heart needs to beat, I need to breathe. My heart needs to beat, I think to breathe. That would be an exhausting way to live, right? If we did not have our unconscious mind to run all of that for us. Our unconscious mind is also the part of us that holds on to habits, that runs things on autopilot for us. Like, for example, when we can be driving home from work and not pay attention and be home and be like, oh, I don't even remember my drive home. That was your unconscious mind keeping you safe, making sure that you stayed on the road and adjusted to all of the traffic that you needed to, while your conscious mind was busy thinking about your coworker Steve, who was kind of a dick that day, or whoever it happens to be, right? Or whatever it happens to be that you're thinking about, like taking your kids to practice or taking your dog on a walk when you get home. Whatever the myriad things are that you're able to consciously think about, your unconscious mind is running everything else in the background, enabling you to do that, which is great. Your conscious mind then only takes up about 5% of your operations throughout the day. So your unconscious mind, being so aware of the power of our unconscious mind, is drastically important because it's 95% of how we behave, how we show up in our life, how we function. But that other 5%, that conscious percent, is what we are going to be talking about and focusing in on today. Because our unconscious mind is what is running those old programs from 7-year-old you or 4-year-old you who got told by a teacher that she wasn't good enough at XYZ thing. So she's internalized it and it never feel like you're good enough the rest of your life, right? Like that's how things work sometimes. That's how your unconscious mind, it felt a bad feeling when you were 7 years old. And it internalized how to never feel that bad feeling again. Maybe you answered a question wrong in class. And I did this once as like a sophomore in high school. I was in a math class and I never answered questions in math class because I was not good at math, didn't feel confident, always felt like I was behind. But my my sophomore year geometry teacher was so nice that I finally was understanding some things. So when he asked a question, I raised my hand because I knew the answer. And the look on his face was like, oh, she's going to answer a question? Okay. And the answer to this question was contrapositive. And I don't even remember what that means anymore. But my sweet sophomore high school self said contraception in front of the whole class, thinking I was correct. And it just like crushed me because my face turned red. His face turned red. The class was staring at me. Some of them were like cackling. Some of them were just like, who is she? What planet is she from? And I felt like the worst. And so, guess who never answered another question in math class, right? Our unconscious mind wants to prevent us from feeling that pain of embarrassment or of guilt or whatever it is that has caused you in some way to keep yourself small now as an adult, right? I very easily could have let that keep me from speaking about math ever again, right? So, when these old programs, when these old behaviors seem like they are holding you back, when they say things like, Kayla, you're too stupid, don't answer that question, it sounds really mean. Kayla, you're too stupid, don't answer that question. But it comes from the loving place of, oh my God, I don't want to feel that pain of embarrassment again. There's a beautiful sense of safety, a desire to protect you that always comes from your unconscious mind, no matter what it is that is tempting you to feel bad about it or not like it or not enjoy it or to be at war with your own mind. Okay? There is always a loving intention because it's coming from 0 to 7-year-old you. And 0 to 7-year-old you likes you, right? She just wants to keep you safe. Okay. So, when you can meet those thoughts of, Kayla, you're too stupid, don't answer that question, with kindness and compassion, when you can use your conscious mind to respond to that unconscious pattern with some sort of love, with some sort of sense of safety, or at the very least, a sense of compassion for poor, sweet 7-year-old you or 4-year-old you, you begin to anchor in consciously that sense of safety. You begin to anchor into yourself a new pattern for how you get to be for yourself, by yourself, with yourself. And that is really exciting. That is where sourcing sacred self-safety gets really juicy, in how you decide to be, in who you decide to be consciously in any given moment. When your unconscious mind throws out a temptation for you to agree with, oh my God, I'm stupid, rather than being like, God, Jesus, you're right, I am stupid, I'm so stupid, ugh, and it spirals out of control. Or, oh my God, I hate my brain, why do I have to deal with these thoughts? Meanwhile, your brain is just saying, you're stupid, stop doing this. And you're like, oh my God, I hate my brain, I hate myself, I hate my brain. Rather than doing that and getting stuck in that spiral, if you can hear those cruel or mean thoughts and consciously remind yourself that that is just 4-year-old Kayla trying to save herself from pain, you can gently guide that part of your unconscious mind. You can use that 5% of conscious thought to put a ripple in the pond of your unconscious mind. And the more and more you do these things, the more and more you hear those cruel thoughts that keep you small. And instead of hating those thoughts, say something along the lines of, okay, sweet self, I see that you are trying to keep me safe, and thoughts like that are harmful to my mental health. So we are going to think different thoughts now. Is so much more deeply loving and compassionate than hating your own brain, being at war with yourself, creating more friction for yourself. And that is so important, because when your inner child feels loved, when your inner 4-year-old, when your unconscious mind feels loved and safe, it is far more likely to jump on board with any of those big wild dreams that you have. When you can be kind to your fear, and fear used to be an emotion that I very much sat at odds with my whole life, because I'm always afraid of something before I do it. I don't know psychologically what that is, but I am always likely and predisposed to be a giant chicken to be afraid when I can look at that fear and say, it's okay, Kayla. I have your back. I understand that you're afraid, and your fears, according to you, are so valid. And also, look at how exciting this other idea is. Look at what we could do here. And at the beginning of my understanding of this, it took a lot of back and forth between my conscious mind and my unconscious fears before doing things felt easier, before it felt like I was making progress with my unconscious mind in making my fears feel safe, in making my fears feel held and loved. It took a really long time. I say a really long time. We'll say like 8 months for me personally, but I was using the practice that we're going to talk about in a while, like constantly, multiple times a day. So it depends on how often you do it. But the more that you can repeat this cycle of meeting your deep fears, your deep negative thoughts, or even cruel thoughts with kind and loving compassion, the more you do that, the more you create this pattern, this cycle of being loving to yourself, of creating a safe space for all of you. Not just the you who wants to go out and do great things in the world, but also the you who felt deeply wounded and is very cautious about going out and doing great things in the world. Gotta hydrate. So essentially, my darling sweet friend, sacred self-safety is who you are to yourself in those moments where you feel the most vulnerable, where you feel like you're at risk, where you feel like you might feel pain and want to avoid it. Who you are to yourself in those moments matters. More water is required. Because if you are looking to jump out of an airplane and part of you is terrified and the other part of you is like, we're going to do it anyway, there's no safety there. They're not going to feel safe strapping on a parachute and jumping out of an airplane. Okay? So why would they also feel safe with you when you want to talk to a new person at work or at a networking meeting or strike up a conversation on a dating app, right? If you are unkind to your fears, what in the world makes them want to join hands with you and go along on whatever merry adventure you desire for yourself? Nothing. All it does is create more friction. So who you are to yourself, who you consciously choose to be for yourself in the face of any type of vulnerability is how you begin to source that sacred safety. And that is so exciting. Okay. So let me just cruise my notes here for a moment to make sure I didn't forget anything. No, biscuits. Okay. We did so good. I love this. Okay. So when it starts to come to more tactics beyond conscious self-talk, right? We had that moment where we celebrated that thought of, okay, I see you. Your fears are valid. I love you anyway. And also, we're going to do this thing. And also, we're going to think this new thought instead of that old thought that is harmful to our mental health. When it comes to doing things beyond just consciously guiding your mental thoughts, We'll get into all sorts of delicious techniques that we can talk about and things that we will learn further in the Coach Academy. And in the second video for this first module, we will be talking about some of the really most profound techniques that help you to be in deep, loving, and compassionate relationship with yourself. One of which is the Peace Talks method, which is my freaking favorite thing to do as a coach for myself and for clients. It changes lives. So if you've been following me for a while, you're already in on the Peace Talks method. And if that is new information for you, just wait. The next video is coming and we are going to talk all about it. In the meantime, from my heart to yours, my darling sweet friend, I am wishing you so much love. And I hope that you have the most amazing day.